Oregon defeated Utah 20-17. One thing that definitely popped out to me in Oregon's win was how physical they were in this game, especially their defensive line. I mean, their defensive line probably played their best game of the season. And Dan Lanning even touched on it a little bit in his post-game presser after this game. Oregon's defense was really good when it came to getting penetration behind the line. Tavion Thomas, I mean, he had a pretty slow night. They held him in check. He had 19 carries for 55 rushing yards, and he averaged less than 3 yards per tote. And you got to remember, the last time these two teams played, when they played in 2021, they faced off twice. The first time they played, Tavion Thomas went off. He had 21 carries for 94 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, and he was averaging 4.5 yards per carry. In the Pac-12 Championship, he was still doing pretty good damage. 18 carries for 63 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. So, Oregon, in their previous matchups against Utah, they've been dominated up front. Utah has been able in the past to come in and just impose their will on Oregon. But in this game, it seemed like the roles were flipped. And Oregon's defensive line was getting so much pressure that it forced Cam Rising to have to make some throws that he normally wouldn't make. And they were some really bad throws. Like, Cam Rising was not good in this game. The dude was 21-38 for 170 passing yards, 3 interceptions, and no touchdowns. And yeah, he was able to do a little bit of damage on the ground with his legs, something that he does pretty much every single game. But I mean, the dude costed Utah this W. The Utes defense probably played the best game they have all season. And it's funny because the key factor and why Oregon won this game and why the Utes lost was points off turnovers. Oregon's defense didn't allow any points off turnovers. And Oregon also coughed the football up a good bit. And Utah's defense held strong on some occasions, but Oregon's defense was more reliable, okay? Or they came through in more situations compared to Utah's. And on top of that, you know, it's really deflating as a defense where you get a turnover and then next play, you got to go right back on the field because your quarterback just gave it back up. There were 2 occasions when that happened. You had the one when Utah recovered the fumble, and then Cam Rising gave it right back, and then he had another one in the second half of the game. So, I mean, he threw 2 bad interceptions after Utah's defense forced turnovers, and then he threw pretty much a game-sealing interception in the fourth quarter that pretty much won the game for Oregon in a sense. So, Cam Rising pretty much played the worst game of his career as a Ute. Utah's defense played good, but Oregon's defense played better. They were the more physical team. Offensively, we probably knew that Oregon's performance in this game wasn't going to be on par with the ones that they've put on display for all year, due to the fact that we didn't know if Bo Nix was even going to play in this game. Dan Lanning in his press conference was saying that Bo Nix was rehabbing all week. And if it wasn't for Pac-12 After Dark, the extra hours that they had, he was using to rehab. So Bo Nix had to go through a lot to even be able to play in this game. And he wasn't fully 100%, so his mobility wasn't there. And the run game wasn't as good in this game as it has been all year, due to the fact that Bo Nix was limited with what he could do with his legs. However, it's funny that the biggest moment of the game, Bo Nix was able to keep the drive alive for Oregon, using his legs despite having that injury. And it's a true, I think that when you think of Bo Nix this season for Oregon, I definitely think that this team has rallied behind him. Because that was really gutsy of him telling the coaching staff, hey, you guys can run me. Yeah, I'm not healthy. I haven't run that much this game. This is the biggest moment. Let's do what we got to do to win. Now, Bo Nix didn't light up the stat sheet, but I really think that the performance he had with the injury that he was playing with was really impressive. And we have to talk about Deontay Thornton. I mean, this dude is a machine. He accounted for the majority of Oregon's receiving yards. 4 receptions, 151 receiving yards. Bro, Utah could not stop this man. No matter what they did, he was getting open. And outside of his fumble, I mean, this dude was flawless. And not just him, but the whole entire receiving corps for Oregon. I mean, they have some dudes. Next season, they're probably going to have the best receiving corps in college football. I mean, everybody in this receiving room has been highly touted coming out of high school, 5 or 4 stars. And not only that, but they can run. They have guys who were running track. Some really fast times. So for Bo Nix, yeah, this offense wasn't as explosive, but at the same time, they still did have hell of big plays when they needed them. And Deontay Thornton was a big part of that. But Oregon almost lost this game because Utah played good enough to win. Utah, I don't think is overrated. I just think that in one possession games, they've came up small. And this was another good example of that. But Oregon, coming after halftime, they tried to do like a wide receiver reverse toss. And they did it with their backup quarterback, Ty Thompson. And you would think, okay, they bring Ty Thompson out. They're probably going to run the football. Understandable because Bo Nix kind of limited. You don't want to run him that much, risk further injury. But they didn't run Ty Thompson. They just ran the attempted reverse, whatever it was, and it failed. And it was like, bruh, what the hell were they thinking? And then Lanning even said after the game, they learned from that. You feel me? That definitely could have costed them. But it's like, man. I mean, for Utah, you should have won this game. And Dan Lanning knows that they walked away with one. You feel me? But at the end of the day, Oregon is still the winner. We have to give them credit where credit is due. This defense played their best game of the season. There was a reporter that asked Dan Lanning, did the responsibilities of the defense change? Did he have a little bit more of a say? Was he more involved in the play calling? He just said that it was an overall good team effort. But you definitely do have to wonder what went into this defense playing so well. Because Utah's offense is also really good as well. And let's not forget what they've done to this team in the past. So Oregon did something defensively. They saw something on film that definitely was able to be exploited. And they exploited it all game. Like, it's not as if Utah has a completely different team from what they had last year. This is pretty much the same team from last year that dominated Oregon up front. And Oregon just pushed them around this go around. And yeah, they still got outgained on the ground. But I mean, the stats don't really tell the story of who is the more physical team. You actually had to watch this game to see it. Like, Oregon was pushing their weight around on Utah. And for Utah, I kind of thought that this team was going to be a little bit better than what they've shown us this season. This year, Joe Klatt, many others viewed them as a potential contender for the college football playoffs. But the thing that has haunted this team all year has been their inability to win games that are one possession in the fourth quarter. Cam Rising doesn't really rise up to the occasion in these situations. You remember week 1 and their upset on the road against Florida? He threw that interception right in the red zone. Now, it's not all his fault because what the hell was the coaching staff thinking? You feel me? You kind of want to throw the ball outside of the end zone or to the back of the end zone. So that was risky calling that. But at the same time, he still made the throw, so I got to hold him responsible. Then we also can't forget about the USC game. Like, there's been too many occasions where Utah has just been unable to finish games out in crunch time. And this was another example of that. So Oregon improves to 9-2. They clinched their spot in the Pac-12 Championship game. Let me know what you guys think about Oregon's win over Utah and how you guys feel about the Utes moving forward.